Now, the first old money brand on this list is seriously old money. I mean, let's assume that your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather bought a watch from this company with a lifetime warranty. Well, if he had done that, he could still take it into their shop almost 300 years later and get it serviced. On top of that, it's safe to say that that watch would probably be worth tens of millions of dollars. Founded in Switzerland back in 1755, the old school money brand I'm talking about, Vacheron Constantin. What do you think of that pronunciation? Did I get close? In any case, if you're wearing a VC watch or better than that, you had one handed down to you, it's safe to say that you understand what this old school money brand is all about. History, quality, and status. Now, the Patrimony collection is one of their most well-known lines. It's minimalist, it's simple, it's clean, beautifully aesthetic, and the price is going to keep out most people. That being said, this is a watch that's very functional, one that you're going to be able to get a lot of miles out of. Unlike a Rolex Samara that's kind of in your face, when you're wearing a VC Patrimony, this is going to be a watch that really is understated, elegant, and those in the know are going to know what this thing is. And if you're looking to spend a little bit more, you want something with a little bit more design, a little bit more casual, check out their history collection. The designs here are going to be a little bit more playful. Notice the positioning of, yes, the 12 and everything. Actually, I really like this. A very unique design and one that also works with their history. Yeah, you're going to see just some bolder looks in this line. And if you've got an unlimited budget, look at their tourbillons, maybe even get one custom made. This style of watch right here is a work of art, and the intricacies, the details, everything that goes, the craftsmanship in these watches is second to none. And of course, that's reflected in the price. In today's video, gents, old money brands that every man needs to know about. Now, when some people hear old money, they think old-fashioned or outdated. And sometimes that's true, but more often than not, these are brands that are staying on the cutting edge. There's a reason that they've been around for, in some cases, hundreds of years. Example being the French company Hermès, founded in 1837. These guys started off just making horse harnesses. Yes, they were for nobles and they were very good quality, but that was their specialty for a number of years until they decided to branch off. So in 1880, I think it was Charles took over for his father, Thierry, and basically took him in a different direction. He started selling retail. He actually moved the factory to the location it's at today, and he started to expand the business. By 1910, the grandsons had taken over. They were selling a lot of the saddles and bridles and stuff over to Russia. From the 1920s on, they jumped into clothing and they've never looked back. But when you look at their logo, what do you see? You see the foundation, you see where these guys came from. Nowadays though, especially if you're a man, if you're going in to buy an Hermès, yeah, you could pick up a bag, but most often you're grabbing one of their well-known neckties, maybe one of their scarves, or perhaps their classic leather belt with an H buckle, which if you know the history now, you understand that these guys have been doing leather and they've been doing it well for almost 200 years. Now, why does it even matter if a company's been around for a long time? Don't new companies have new ideas? Yes, they do. But one of the things, especially in manufacturing, there's a lot of knowledge, information tied up in the workers, in the people that have been there for years. So if a company's been around for 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, it's safe to say they've got people that have been there for 20, 30, 40 years who actually within them have the knowledge, the craftsmanship, the attention to detail that goes into what you're actually purchasing from them. And that knowledge, that skill is incredibly important when we're talking about finer menswear. I'm talking suits, sports jackets, blazers, and other custom clothing pieces. Now, if you ever get the chance to go to London and you're a menswear enthusiast, you owe it to yourself to stop by Savile Row. Besides being a great looking street, it is also home to some of the best tailors and seamstresses on the planet. Now, if you're familiar with the first Kingsman movie, you'll probably remember that part. They went into that tailor shop. Now, parts of that were real. The outside entrance, this is an actual tailor shop on Savile Row. Anyone know what it is? Let me know in the comments below. But when you walk down the street, not only are you going to see that one, but you've got Henry Poole. You've also got at one Savile Row, one of the oldest tailors on the row, Gieves and Hawkes. Founded in 1771, Gieves and Hawkes has served royalty. They've served military. They've just served gentlemen throughout the UK whenever they want to look their best. In fact, years ago, I got a private tour of the building, of the back end. Basically, I was with my son and a good friend. We were standing outside, and this is when I kind of knew I'd made it at Real Men Real Style. I had a gentleman look at me from, the inside, and he waved at me. And I thought, okay, like, wow, great customer service. Usually I don't get this. And he comes out and he says, Antonio. And I'm like, oh, like, he actually knew who I was. When I first started my custom clothing or tailored suit back in 2007, I traveled to Savile Row. I was in awe of these places and I was a nobody. I was just getting started with my business. And it was so strange, so surreal to actually be recognized by this young man. His name was Ben, and he knew he'd watched all my videos. In fact, he told me that my videos had helped him learn about men's style, learn about suits, and helped get him the job there. They were very impressed about his knowledge base of suits, and it was awesome. I was treated like a rock star. I got, the whole back end, and it was just cool to see that my work here on the channel had been able to help this young man get a job, and we got to see all these uniforms made for the military, for the royals, and it was really a very cool experience. Now, because these businesses have been around so long, they serve families for generations. And what's interesting about menswear, if you're familiar with bespoke menswear, they're making these from scratch, but they use patterns, and these patterns they keep on file. And it's not uncommon for them to, once the person passes away, usually they destroy the pattern, but they would actually, you could go back in and they've got your grandfather's pattern on file. You'll have the grandsons coming in. And if you're ever getting a higher end suit, a custom jacket even, they're going to go through multiple fittings. They're first going to, put the base on you before they take your measurements. Then they build out the first version of the suit. Then they're going to have the second and, very close to being finished version of the suit. Then they're going to have the third and final fitting, and sometimes even a fourth if need be. The point being is, historically speaking, a lot of these old money brands and stores, they actually had a very deep relationship with the families, with the people, because they were spending so much time with them. Most clothing, don't forget, 150 years ago was handmade, was individual made. So if you actually had the money to have people make it for you, that's where a lot of these brands initially got their start. And speaking of last, let's go over to the shoe area. So let's start with John Lobb, a company founded in 1849. So yeah, relatively, new, not even 200 years old. These guys have been making custom shoes, and they've got tons of last. So if you wanted to see what the feet of Winston Churchill, you're just curious, like what shape they were, they've probably got, they keep some of these things because they would actually make wooden last based off of people's feet, and then they would adjust it based on time. As you gain weight or as you age, your foot starts to flatten, you lose a bit of your arch depending on what's going on. But this was a company, again, you would have one company focused on suits, another company focused on outerwear, which we'll get to here in a few minutes. But these guys focused in on footwear. And what's great is once they've got your last, once they've got a shape of what your foot is like, they can make for you any type of shoe. So if you needed a riding boot, if you needed a hunting shoe, if you needed a slipper, all of a sudden you would just simply either have to make a call. Most likely you would go in and see your friends. You would pick out the different materials, and they were able to get it made. Now, a lot of these companies, including, I believe John Lobb has actually got ready to wear. Ready to wear is where most of us are used to buying clothing. That's where you buy something off the rack that's already built in mass manufacturing. But understand that was not the norm 100 years ago. Again, almost everything, especially of high quality, was custom made. Now, speaking of ready to wear, let's talk about the American classic Brooks Brothers, founded actually in 1818. So it's the oldest company in the United States. And Brooks Brothers didn't start out by making its own clothing. They were simply reselling other clothing that they were getting from around the world, mostly from the UK or a few manufacturers in the United States. But they started coming into their own about 70 or 80 years into the company. So the original founders, they had moved on. What I love about this company is now there are just certain pieces that are iconic to Brooks Brothers. One of them is the sack suit. And this was really the first mass manufactured jacket suit that was made for people to be able to throw on. Again, you got to understand that most men were owned suits, but they were getting them either custom made or they were having them handmade at home. And if that was the case, it's a lot of work. You owned very few. But now with these ready to wear, these sack suits, they fit a wide variety of body types. And they had a looser overall fit, which became the American signature fit. But also men were able to own a few more, and it was able to free up women from having to spend time, sewing and building, and a lot of the stuff that was done at home. So it was really a big revolution that Brooks Brothers was able to bring in, and they were one of the first companies to do this in mass. In addition, Brooks Brothers is known for the button-down collar. Of course, there are other companies that picked up on this, but the button-down Oxford, the button-down collar that we would see on a lot of shirts and polos included, this was started apparently with Brooks Brothers. Oh, and the rep tie, can't forget about that. That's another iconic piece that we see. And the big difference, does anyone know the difference between striped ties over in the UK and the United States? Really quick, it is the direction of the stripe. And most of the ones initially worn over the UK, they were a part of a club. They reflected the military unit. So if you hadn't served in that unit, if you hadn't gone to that school, if you weren't part of that club, you couldn't wear it. In the United States, it was very different. We just simply wanted to wear a variety. They still do exist. And like, Harvard has their own, a lot of those old school Ivy League, they do have particular colors and ties. But I think for the vast majority of us nowadays, we can just wear these rep ties and not have to worry about their association. Now, jumping back over to outerwear, let's talk about Burberry. 1856 is when this company was founded. And the number one garment that Burberry became known the world over for is the trench coat. Nowadays, the trench coat isn't as popular as it used to be, but starting in the late 1880s, 1890s, they were initially made for the military. Those serving over in the Boer War, they found them very useful. They were custom made and they expanded this out. So going into World War I, it was initially an officer's coat. Eventually, even the enlisted men were asking for these things. And again, because they used this gabardine fabric that was very weather and water resistant, they worked really well in the trenches. There were other just details about, you could cinch them up around the sleeves, around the waist, which was a big deal if you're carrying a weapon and you just simply don't want anything catching on. Know that they did not attach grenades to some of the D-loops and things like that. That's all myth. But yeah, they had a very strong association with the military and they made their way, especially in the 1930s and 1940s, into civilian wear. Nowadays, Burberry is known for their high quality jackets. They sell a lot more than just trenches, but still a key identifier of a Burberry jacket, besides the logo, besides the brand name, is going to be that Nova check design. This is a very distinctive tartan pattern that really adds a bit of color whenever you flash and you can see the inside of the coat. Now, at this point, you may be wondering, how does my style measure up? What actions do I need to take? Well, gents, if you haven't taken our style quiz over at Real Men Real Style, I'm going to link to it down in the description below. This is a free and fun quiz in which we ask you questions and then we give you a breakout of your style score and areas that you can improve. But if that's not enough, if you're a man that wants to take action, you're tired of watching all of these videos and not actually following through, going through and buying the clothing, revamping your wardrobe, improving your image, then you need to check out our course, The Style System. Over the last decade, this has been the internet's go-to professional men's style course in which we teach you exactly what you need to know. The goal of The Style System is to give you the information you need to take action so that you can become your best dressed self. Seriously, gents, you're going to walk into a room and unless I'm present, you're going to be the best dressed guy there. Seriously, I've met men who have gone through my course and they put me to shame at times because, yeah, I dressed down and these guys came in and they owned the room. But seriously, gents, check out the course. It's all about action. It's about you taking the steps to become the man you know yourself to be. All the links to everything I just mentioned down in the description of today's video. Now, what if you want an outdoor coat that's functional for hunting? You want something that, is going to have a cotton, but a waxed cotton? Check out Barbour. Founded in 1894, what I love about Barbour is just how strong, masculine. These are great looking jackets. They're going to be a little bit pricey, not as pricey as you would think though. And these guys have remained true for well over 100 years to what they're about. These are functional outdoor coats, and that's really been their outerwear. They've got a wide range of other pieces of clothing and accessories and stuff like that. But I have to say, it's still their jackets, it's their outerwear, it's their outside work gear. Not really work, more for hunt and sport. But this stuff looks good and it functions even better. And if you're looking for an outdoor jacket that isn't as heavy as a waxed cotton, maybe look at a quilted jacket. Again, timeless style design right here. But if you want something that's warm, a bit more delicate, a bit more clean in the style, in the lines, check out Loro Piana. 1924, these guys founded over in Italy. Yes, not all the old money brands are going to be coming out of the UK or France or Switzerland. You'll be finding these also down. A lot of them are European though. And if you've got some brands that are down in South America, maybe coming out of Asia that you feel are old money, guys, let me know down in the comments. But what I love about Loro Piana is going to be their knitwear. They've got just amazing. If you're looking for a higher end sweater, if you're looking for a classic design, if you're looking for something that is going to just feel, just cashmere, just absolutely beautiful, at the same time fit close to the body and be timeless in style, Loro Piana, it's hard to beat. And a big part of this is that these guys for 100 years have been manufacturing and making a lot of their own fabrics, their own materials. So because they specialized in the fabrics and the materials, they made sure the ingredients that was going into the clothing was second to none. It was going to have insulating properties at the same time, be incredibly soft to the touch, and relatively durable compared to, I think, a lot of the cheaper cashmeres, a lot of the cheaper materials are going to be. Now, what if you want an Italian suit? Then look no farther than Zegna. Yes, there are tons of other great brands that I would recommend. They got some of the best fabrics out there, especially if you want something soft, breathable. But Zegna not only, they got their own fabrics, founded in 1910. These guys are really just, when it comes to the style, second to none. They are going to be pricey. But when it comes, if you want a sports jacket, if you want a blazer that is, just absolutely beautiful. The craftsmanship, the detail, this is Italian elegance at its finest. And they've also got really great accessories. So if you look at Zegna's ties, if you look at their leather goods, again, everything is about attention to detail. Everything is about the finish. Everything is about how they go through and they stitch it all together. And just the style is absolutely beautiful. Now, what about a modern old money brand? Well, we got Ralph Lauren. So 1967, relatively younger than all the other brands we've talked about today. But when it comes to having made a splash, especially in the United States and on the world, it's hard to find a brand that really has done more. So first up, the polo shirt. Now, they didn't invent it, but man, they sure made it popular. In fact, their name for it, the polo shirt, because, initially, if you're familiar with Lacoste, Rene, when he founded that company, the crocodile, he definitely that was the tennis shirt, but it was the renaming and the rebranding that Ralph Lauren did to actually get this spread throughout the world. And by the way, Lacoste, another great company that is, I'm going to go ahead and throw on this list, but I'm not going to be able to go into much detail on. Any Lacoste fans out there, let me know in the comments. But Ralph Lauren, when it comes to the polo, making it available to the masses, being able to give the masses the feeling of this old money preppy style and making it popular, that's the gift that they were able to give. Chinos, blazers, shorts, all the different shirts that you need for that preppy look. I would say that Ralph Lauren didn't write the preppy handbook, but he pretty much perfected it and supplied everything that people were looking for after they read that book. And it seems like everyone on the East Coast, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s especially, they were wearing his clothing. Now, gents, I know I skipped over a lot of brands in today's video. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments below and I'll make a part 2. But in the meantime, if you're wondering what are the essential old money items that you need to have in your wardrobe, well, guys, I got you covered with this video. Boom, right here. Go check it out. It's a solid one. I think you will enjoy. Oh yeah.